the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Hey, check out my new tag team, baby, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Jimmy, don't forget to tell them about Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Well, you know what, I would, but you already did it.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and Pharaoh. The Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and Pharaoh, bro.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh.
To the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
And you're watching the Monte and Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
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 Monte and Pharaoh.
It's Monte and the Pharaoh.
And Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monte and the Pharaoh?
Monte and Pharaoh.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
To the Monte and the Pharaoh Show. Next. And it's Monte and the Pharaoh, baby.
Watching Monte and the Pharaoh.
With Monte and the Pharaoh. Monte and the Pharaoh. Oh, what a run.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Hey, cut the fucking music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're going to get it, right here.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible. Monte and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monte and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Monte and the Pharaoh.
Monte and the Pharaoh. Duh.
Welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and the Pharaoh, seen only here out of Indie Music TV every Thursday from 9 to 10 p.m. out of Ronkonkoma, New York. Always want to welcome our producer, Matt. How are you today, buddy? How are you?
Great as always.
And to the right is probably the greatest co-host in the history of pro wrestling.
In the history.
The star of the show.
Of course.
Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy, what's going on, brother?
Oh, just hanging in, doing about as well as our New York Yankees lately. Yeah. How you doing?
What's up with that?
What, our baseball team evaporating?
Yeah.
Quite a few things.
And
you really
quickly,
want to,
by the way.
Yeah. You really want to get me started?
Yeah, sure.
This next generation of great Yankees that we were really hoping and praying would be the next great crop after all those wonderful years with guys like Jeter and Posada and Rivera and Bernie Williams and Andy Pettit and, oh my God, please, Mariano Rivera, please. So many greats that we were able to enjoy over the years. Well, this Aaron Judge and, oh God, Gary Sanchez and the rest of them there. Gleyber Torres, I'm looking at these batting averages. First of all, Aaron Judge is never healthy, ever. He's never healthy, so how can you bank on someone who's never there? He's always hurt, so, it's nice that he hit 50 home runs 2 years ago. What have you done lately? Gary Sanchez is living off the rep of his first 2 years. The guy's hitting 125. Mike, I got to be honest, man. If I gave you 100 at-bats, I bet you might be able to hit a buck.
You think?
I think you could get one hit in every 10 at-bats by accident.
Maybe. You might be right.
The guy's hitting 125. This is the next Munson and Posada? Oh boy!
Come to speak of that, though, but they're still getting paid.
Yeah, they still are, aren't they?
So is anyone screaming that the Yankees should get their money back?
No,
right?
Life is rough.
We're all the, we're all those.
Matter of fact, I encouraged Gary Sanchez to go out and do a commercial for weenies because he's the ultimate weenie I've seen lately.
You're right. You're right. It's funny how whatever, dude.
It's awful.
They're
awful.
But do you think that they just don't care, being it's COVID?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I can't gauge the temperature of the clubhouse, but I am definitely feeling a who gives a flip.
It's funny though. First 10 games, it's like who could beat the Yankees.
Right.
Now it's like what happened.
They're awful. Their batting averages are all horrendous. They have invested too much time in guys who are hurt all the time. Giancarlo Stanton is MIA.
Oh, my God.
His entire Yankee, it's like watching Carl Pavano with a baseball bat. He's never around. He's never around. Why have him?
Well, speaking of people, just today, WWE Hall of Famer Gerald Briscoe says Vince McMahon released him from the WWE. And here's your statement, Pharaoh. Okay, want to get this out right away. Last night I received a call from the WWE, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, to let me know that after 36 years of dedication to the WWE, I am no longer needed.
Right.
I'm okay with this. I will
Right.
still be around to help talent. More info will follow. Thanks.
He's okay with this? Then why did he have to word it that way? After 36 years of dedication, I am no longer needed? I'm okay with this. Did I ask? Wait a minute. Did I ask you if you're okay
The
with
guy's like
this?
70-something years old, too, right?
I think that he had a very blessed life.
I think so.
I would think so.
And again, if it's a charity case and he feels that, look, he wants to keep working, I don't, again, it's sometime it ends,
but
doesn't
doesn't language count for anything? After 36 years of working for Vince McMahon,
yeah.
Couldn't he have said? Why does it have to be made out this way? I
How
am
about
no
thank you for the 36
when
years?
you write, I am no longer needed, I see the shoe kicking in the ass.
absolutely.
I'm like, what are you talking about? You worked there for 36 years.
It's not thank you for the 36 years.
Apparently not.
It's
I guess he wanted another car or boat when he was being let go.
I mean,
I don't know what the problem.
I think Vince took care of Gerald, right?
I think so.
He bought. He bought Georgia Championship.
But wait a minute,
Wrestling
how do
from
we
him.
know? How do we know?
We don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
I guess.
We know
I
as much as the guys who are
guessing.
convicting Vince McMahon. Let's be honest.
You're right.
So
that's
what are we
true.
talking about
Well,
here?
I got one thing I do know.
It was a hell of a 36-year
I do
run
know that
for
he
a
gave
guy
him
of
36
Gerald.
years of employment.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a long
awesome.
time.
Dude, that's and I'm sure the paychecks were
Yeah.
very nice.
So
I will
I
say
do know
this is a
something. I do know
yeah.
something.
I will say this is a positive thing. Some wrestlers are very appreciative of his time there. He helped a lot of them. So it's a shame that they let him go, but obviously it was time. And I'm not so thrilled with the way that, I am no longer needed. I'm okay with this. Why didn't you just say you parted ways and thank you for a glorious 36 years?
Thank you, Vince, for feeding my family for 36 years. Thank
whatever.
you, Vince,
I guess
for
it's all
giving
in the
me $1
wording.
million for Georgia Championship. Me and my brother, $1 million for Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Wow.
Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Vince.
Nah.
No, instead, I am no longer needed. No, you're not. You're 73 years old.
Goodness.
Take a hike.
I don't even think it's about the age. I'm sure at this point he just wasn't functioning at a point where they felt they needed to keep him around
Take a
anymore.
hike, Briscoe. Get the hell out of here.
So long, Jerry. Wait, he wasn't even world champ like his brother.
See you, Gerald.
What are you gonna do? What,
I'd like
you
to
expecting Love and Roses? Come on, this is Monte and the Pharaoh.
I would like to
Anyway.
thank the band that sings the theme song for Monte and the Pharaoh. Jimmy Farrow with his band, Wisteria Hall, along with his partner Bart Griggs.
Hope you go easier than we did on Gerald.
Wisteria Hall sings such great. I know, right? No one's,
Please say
buying your
something-
song
Please
now.
say something nice,
But I'm
will
buying
you?
Wisteria Hall song now.
What?
It makes
Those
fun of
jerks!
Gerald.
Those jerks, they should do disco.
Wisteria Hall sings our theme song, Riding High, which is getting a lot of hits on the internet right now. So if anyone's
Thank you
heard
for
it,
those
go out and get it. It's an
checking it
awesome
out.
song.
Yeah.
You just have to download it. It's not like you have to get out of your house.
I have to
You're
pick up my
COVID
phone.
protected, right? You don't have to do anything. Just
You're
download it. off
COVID
the-
protected.
You're
to
COVID
watch
protected.
The video. Now that's a sales pitch. Hey, you won't get COVID. Watch Wisteria Hall. Woo-hoo! Wait, I watched it. COVID. What the fuck, bro?
Check their other songs out as In My Dreams, This Life, Not Far Behind, Here Comes the Rain. You can find their music on Spotify, iTunes, and Reverb Nation.
By the way, I love the fact that Here Comes the Rain hits a soft spot in your hulky exterior.
loved it,
Get a
dude.
load of
I
that.
love it, dude.
Isn't that interesting?
Love it.
It's about a girl that
That
lives
first
above,
album,
lives above
we
a bar.
discussed this the other day. It's like the
Isn't
other
it
show.
pretty? It's a pretty record.
It's a very pretty
Ain't
record.
it pretty?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. What else you got here?
With
What
that,
is it?
after 36 years of dedication, the king of the dog.
Paper football.
Monte the Pharaoh can be seen on YouTube,
terrible.
Facebook Live on the Monte the Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Twitch TV, Monte the Pharaoh page, RTF Sports Network, every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Channel 115, that's right, Channel 115 every Tuesday from 8:30 to 9 p.m. But I just got the new contract. Came over.
Okay.
They are moving us to 7 p.m.
Okay.
So
Wow. I'm going to
I
start.
don't know if you get.
I think I'm going to miss Dr. Pass's Gas.
I know, we're going to miss that guy.
Isn't that was his name,
Yeah.
right? Dr. Pass's Gas.
Pass's Gas, the
Yeah,
dentist.
yeah. What are you going to do?
The dentist who talks everything except teeth. And for early risers on Channel 15 every Saturday, 6 a.m. to 6:30. And on Friday on Channel 20, that's Friday mornings. That's just a few hours from now from 1:30. It's 1:30, right?
Yeah, Pharaoh time.
Yeah, 1:30 to 2 a.m.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, man. So our special guest, Mike Messier, is over on the world of the internet. He's on the other line. We're going to open up with this, and we're going to go into Mike's video, hit a commercial, and then get Mikey on the air. Hot on the pro wrestling news, not that new, but Vince McMahon bans WWE performers from third-party platforms allegedly because one of the wrestlers had a side deal. Social media is abuzz with discussions of WWE's new controversial order. We reported earlier, the new order requires wrestlers to cease any association with third-party apps like Twitch, Cameo, or YouTube within 30 days. With this contract and a letter from Vince McMahon, WWE claims it owns the ring names and the real names of wrestlers.
Right.
It is pivotal for the WWE to take this step as the company goes into the next phase of growth. All right, so Mike Messier is on the other line. We're going to play his video. We'll come back for a commercial. Then we'll have pro wrestling expert Mike Messier live.
We'll be right back.
Okay, wrestling fans, Michael A.J. Norris is demanding, other fans are demanding my thoughts, insights, perspectives on good old Vince McMahon trying to stop his independent contractors from having outside sources of income while under, can you say even under contract with WWE? I mean, this is something that's been brewing for a long time. Vince might have just buried himself. Folks, you can Google, or you can Wrestling Observer, or you can, Brian Alvarez or Bruce Mitchell your way into the information of the facts. But if you just want my opinion, I think what's going on is that Vince, once again, is he 75 years old now? Just thinks of himself, I hate to use this analogy, but thinks of himself as an old-time plantation owner. He is from North Carolina, and he has that control issue and that feeling that these wrestlers owe him their lives and their souls. And the Kiss My Ass Club, yes, I know that's storyline bullshit, but just goes to show the mentality of this evil fuck, Vince McMahon, okay? Junior, by the way. So he wants to control their sources of income, and that's an old wrestling promoter axiom. If the boys have too much money, then you don't control them. That's why, that story from the 80s of the Iron Sheik getting, what was it, $800,000 a quarter for Iron Sheik action figure licensing. And the Vince stepped in there and lowered their percentages of merch sales. So for all the fans that are up in arms because they're worried that Xavier Woods won't be able to up, down his way into your hearts every week, or however that works, all I can say is you sell your soul, you join the meat puppet circus, and you're going to be treated like a meat puppet. A meat puppet! So, do I have great sympathy or compassion for these wrestlers? No. If the Dolph Zigglers or the Xavier Woods wanted to have a set of balls in their trunks, they could have fucking left the WWE when the leaving was good. Okay? They could be on AEW Dynamite. They could be on Impact. They could have gone somewhere else to find their fortune, grow a set of balls in their pants, but they decided to stick around with Vince. Now they pay the fucking price. And the price is your dignity. The price is you've got this guy who's, let's just be honest, he's bordering on senility, going insane and old, and senility. And what the fuck? So if you are upset, if you got your goddamn panties in an uproar, worried about these fucking wrestlers, worry about the people on the streets protesting and rioting, worry about the state of our country, the state of unrest, the political politics. Of course, it all ties into wrestling, because guess who funds the Trump administration? Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So Junior, by the fucking way. So when I said 3 years ago, if you support the WWE or NXT, you support Donald Trump, I was fucking right. And all you fucking fans who didn't listen to me, you're all should be ashamed and should all live with your heads held down that I pointed out the obvious and you assholes rewarded my wonderful video with a bunch of thumbs down. Well, now you see your heroes, your Xavier Woods and your Alexa Blisses and your whoever the fucks getting treated like the meat puppets that they are. And I say, you get what you fucking get. You get what you deserve. So, Mike Messier, do I give a flying fuck about these wrestlers? No. They've lost my goddamned faith a long time ago. I only have faith in myself and the Mike Messier YouTube subscribers. So please subscribe and join the fun.
That's right, folks. Canine Corral for all your dog daycare and overnight care. Call 631-549-1544. That's 631-549-1544. And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB.
You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence, Collision Specialists, 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence. All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen every Thursday, produced at Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. Again, to my right is the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow, and on the other line is Mr. Mike Messier. Mike, how are you, buddy? Thanks for joining the show.
I'm doing great tonight, guys, and tonight I wanted to dedicate
Is Mike there?
I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Out
Hello?
there somewhere.
I'm here. I'm here.
There he is.
Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
Yeah, for a second we couldn't, Mike. What's going on?
Hey, guys,
Hang in
can you
there
see
one
me?
sec,
Can you hear
Mike.
me? Sure.
Just want to make sure we're clear. What's going on?
Hello? Hello?
VMix, we've got no problems.
Oh, good news, fellas. What's that? Oh, everything's running smoothly.
I see you, Mike. Just want to see what the
Just
audio
like
sounds
a baby's butt.
All right. Not an auspicious beginning. Mike, you out there? Can you talk?
Hello? Can you guys see me? Hello? 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 Hello?
Way
Hello?
delayed, too.
Hello?
Matt, can we go to commercial?
Hello?
Jimmy, I got to take a dump. What? No. I mean, I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP. The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah. and Varola Worldwide Logistics for all your logistic needs. Please call 862-227-3670. Once again, that's 862-227-3670. Varola Worldwide Logistics.
All right, guys, we're going to restart the stream. We apologize to the fans out there. We want to get Mike Messier. We're having some issues with the audio. All right, so bear with us. We'll be right back.
Mike, is that you?
I'm Mike Messier.
Yes, Mike, you are back.
It's
him,
him.
It's kind of like the payoff of Savio Vega taking Shawn Michaels' place at the Royal Rumble 1998. But maybe not that bad or that good, depending on how the show goes. But it's good to be here, gentlemen. Most definitely is.
It's great to have you, man. It's been a while. So
it's been about a year, and I'm wearing the same T-shirt I wore the last time, Road Warrior Hawk in Baltimore.
You are, and you've got some Magnificent Morocco
oh wow
statues going there.
Nice.
This is Magnificent Morocco's birthday today, and he was a guy that we all kind of enjoyed. I really enjoyed Morocco. At the time, we didn't really appreciate the heels as much as we should have, but I mean, his battles with, everyone says Jimmy Snuka, but I'd even put his battles with Rocky Johnson and Bob Backlund ahead of the Snuka feud myself.
Was Morocco your favorite wrestler?
No, Morocco was someone I learned to become one of my top 4 favorite wrestlers. The others would be Ric Flair, Barry Windham, and Brian Pillman, the original Brian Pillman. That would be my personal 4 top singles guys. But Morocco, at the time, I just hated him because he was a bad guy. That's all I knew.
What turned you on to Morocco, though? What was it about him?
Well, I think if you check out those interviews, during the Snuka feud, the Rocky Johnson feud, I mean, Morocco looked like a guy who was coked out. He looked like he was intense. He was eating a meatball sandwich when he's beating a jobber. He's dedicating pile drivers to Jesse Ventura at ringside. I think the thing that kind of held Morocco back a little bit in our wrestling mid-'80s lore is that when Roddy Piper came in, Piper was so damn good himself, but Piper was the new toy. Morocco kind of got demoted a couple of spots in the heel lineup, so to speak. And by the time we got to WrestleMania 3 or just after WrestleMania 3, Morocco was put into a babyface role. Wasn't really him, but he did it. And I think Morocco's best work was like 81 to 83 in WWF. And if you look at stuff in Florida and Georgia before that, Morocco turned Roddy Piper babyface twice. He did it once in Georgia with Gordon Soley, I think in 81 or 82, and he did it with Piper in 86 in WWF. So, I mean, it takes a special type of heel to turn Roddy Piper from heel to a babyface, and that's who Don Morocco was.
If I'm not mistaken, one of my favorite moments ever was when Roddy Piper walked into that ring and faced a heel Morocco and hit him with the roll of quarters.
Absolutely, yeah. At the Omni, right?
Laid him out, and that place went absolutely ballistic. So, good point.
I will tell you, when Morocco did turn face, I definitely wasn't into it. He was in great shape. He was definitely hitting the gas hard.
He's not a face.
I mean? But he definitely wasn't a face.
Some guys are just meant to be a certain way. Not everybody is what I call character ambidextrous. You know, Don Morocco's just meant to be a bad guy, like Greg Valentine, just meant to be a bad guy.
But Mikey brings up a great point, right? Morocco was one of the top heels for the longest time, but once Piper, Bundy, these guys came in.
Oh, he completely took over.
Then he kind of just fell to the wayside.
Piper was like the Joker has arrived out of the way, as far as heels go.
Right.
So, Mike, real quick, we played your video.
Yes, thanks for playing it.
Knowing, it's great, man. You always give entertaining stuff, so we're big fans. But do you want to apologize to Vince now?
He's not gonna. What? Oh boy.
Well,
really
I think if I'll say this. I think I could be wrong, but I think based on the social media or Andrew Yang, the politician, even, I think based on some of the backlash the WWE got once that story got leaked.
which they probably wanted to control the narrative and weren't able to control it this time. They kind of pulled back a little bit to clarify that they were saying only the WWE's, kayfabe name or WWE trademark name.
Right.
And they kind of, and look, here's the thing with pro wrestling news articles. If it comes from The Observer, if it comes from Bruce Mitchell or The Torch or Alvarez or Wade Keller, we don't know if this stuff is true or not, to be honest with you. So we give these guys, Meltzer especially, a lot of credit or a lot of prestige in their wrestling journalism. But the reality is we don't know. We don't know what's what. But I will say this: if you look at the Scott Hall thing, the WWE was trying to sue WCW for Scott Hall acting like Razor Ramon, when in fact Razor Ramon was doing a lot of diamond stud stuff from 2 or 3 years earlier from WCW. So the WWE/WWF/ Vince McMahon himself, they have a history of trying to control these wrestlers, control these trademarks. The fake Diesel and fake Scott Hall, fake Razor Ramon, I should say. These are all patterns of behavior with the WWE. And Terry Funk said it best on the Beyond the Mat special bonus commentary. If there's a pro wrestling match going on anywhere in the world, Vince McMahon wants to make $1 from it. And there's no reason for me to apologize. Let him apologize to me.
Pharaoh?
Very interesting. You know what I did like about your rant is that because I felt it was very real, so, thumbs up as far as that goes. Here's the deal. You spell out your personal opinion of Vince McMahon. You are so entitled to that, so I have no issue with that. I'd be a complete asshole to have, an issue with somebody's opinion on Vince McMahon. However, I also thought it was very interesting that you also said something that Mike and I feel very strongly. If this is what you sign up for, and you know you're signing up for it, how the hell am I supposed to feel bad for you? And you clearly spelled that out also. So I found it very real as far as your rant goes. And also, it's kind of hard not to take too... I mean, to me, it made it kind of easy to not take too many bullets because, the pro-Vince guys, sure, they'll sit there and applaud your personal opinion, but at the same time, they're probably yelling at you like, what do you mean you're not on their side? What do you mean that's what they get? Blah, blah, blah. So I really liked your take because, to me, it was a real one. Good job. That's basically what I got to say about that.
Well,
thanks, Pharaoh.
I always think you do a good job, Mikey and Pharaoh. Of course, you always
he kept it real,
intelligent.
I appreciate that.
I will say
much.
this: how about the wrestler taking advantage of the situation, though?
Right.
They go in,
That's
they
not
sign
cool
the
either.
contract.
There's a bunch of
and
different
someone like
things
Paige
that
or
are not
Lana, which started this.
What was that Paige Mania?
Paige is on Twitch, and she's making $200,000 a year using the Paige logo and the Paige name. And she's not sharing those, those funds
That's
with
a lot
the
of money.
WWE.
Hey,
That's the page is owned by the WWE. So my point is, Lana, and I forget Lana's real name. She should not be able to use the character to make money for herself unless she shares with the people that have marketed her to that point.
Mike, does this get back to what you said? If you know what you're signing up for, this is what you've signed up for.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think that you guys just made a great point. And C.J. Perry is Lana's real name. And
thank you.
If you remember back when The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, was transitioning from being a full-time wrestler to a part-time actor, then a full-time actor, he had to buy the name The Rock from the WWE. So I don't have a problem with business as business. But I do feel that, and there's another one of my videos, gentlemen, from going back over 3 years ago. I said, WWE fans, who's your daddy? Wrestling fans, who's your daddy? The wrestling fans and the pro wrestlers themselves, as we all know, have a daddy complex towards Vince McMahon, and the younger generation has a daddy complex towards Triple H, Paul Levesque. Because if you read Mick Foley's book, Mick Foley says that Vince McMahon's like a father to him. Jim Ross, who's like 2 or 3 years younger than Vince, or maybe 10 years younger than Vince, says that Vince is like a father to him. All these wrestlers say Vince is like a father to me. Vince is like, where's their real father? Why do these wrestlers have a daddy complex to Vince? It's bizarre.
Mike, I'm just curious. What's your take? Is that a positive trait that Vince McMahon can make everybody feel that way? A lot of them. What is that?
So, I think.
What causes that to have it almost sounds like idol worship? Hey, daddy. I mean, I can't relate personally. I've never,
Wait a minute. Again, you work with people.
Right.
You're spending most of your life with people.
Right.
Some people, I've had in my career mentors that I've worked under that have taught me.
Absolutely.
I still consider them mentors.
Absolutely.
So, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with Mick Foley or Jim Ross, who's the same age or a little older than Vince McMahon
Right.
Jr. or younger.
Okay, so maybe daddy complex is a little
what?
rough. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, you're close.
What do you think out there, Mike?
My issue is this: is that we're all adults, right?
Yeah, we are.
And, well,
I don't know about that. Go on. We're all
adults.
adults.
We are three older
Let's
men
pretend.
talking about professional wrestling. I mean,
Mike, don't you feel mature out there talking to us?
I've got two Don Morocco rubber dolls in front of me in front of a computer.
That is true. That is it's a little.
You're not helping, weird. Mike. You're not helping. Go on. Okay, so here are the adults in the room.
The
Yeah.
realest thing Mike said in the video was, "Look, this is professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Worry about the real things that are happening."
Oh my God, could we? You think that's possible? Again, I don't think it's possible, Mike.
Lana or CJ, she's making plenty of money.
Right. Right.
Paige is making plenty of money.
Of course.
And really, the real facts of it is: does Paige really give a shit what's happening in Mike Messier, Jimmy Farrow,
No,
life?
of course
not
not
at all.
Right? Why lose sleep over those who are losing those? Well, I guess that's not very Christian. But what are you going to do? Oi. Have to give it an oi.
It's true. I mean, as wrestling fans, and part of the whole angry wrestling fan Mike Messier persona is to educate the next generation of young men and women that are addicted to pro wrestling in saying that we have to, say, hey, look, sometimes I feel like the recovering alcoholic going into the bar with double, Alcohol Anonymous pamphlets, you know what I mean? Trying to sign people up, and they don't want to sign up. They want to keep drinking. So
right.
And then I end up drinking too, drinking the wrestling Kool-Aid or the wrestling beverage.
It's almost like oxygen to us wrestling addicts. Go on.
Yeah, and it's look, pro wrestling has been great to me, but I feel that the last 5-6 years, when WWE especially got very political with their shows in Saudi Arabia, I felt that was catering to a regime that I did not appreciate. Catering to Sharia law and all that stuff.
I agree with
didn't
this.
think about.
I agree with this too.
And now, and to be honest, and however people's political bents are, I wouldn't want WWE endorsing Obama. I wouldn't want them endorsing Hillary Clinton. I wouldn't want them endorsing Biden. And I wouldn't want them endorsing Trump. I wouldn't want them endorsing anybody with the millions upon millions of dollars that they put into politics, namely for Trump, but it could be for anybody, because I want a separation of wrestling and state. And when McMahon feels that he wants to put millions and millions of dollars in, and some people say, well, it's his money, he can do what he wants. My retort would be, his money comes from the wrestling fan, of which I am one. So I feel like when you're taking your personal money, yes, I get it, but putting into politics that I didn't necessarily sign up for when I put my $10 a month into the WWE Network or all these wrestling books or action figures or DVDs, I find that a bit of a betrayal of my trust as a wrestling fan, and maybe that's me being oversensitive or naive, but that's just how I feel.
Interesting. You said something very, very interesting to me. You would love to see a separation. You want a separation between wrestling and state. Oddly enough, and this is my opinion, I feel like if there ever is going to be a union of any kind, the only way that it will ever truly happen is with more Andrew Yangs, for example. When the government steps in, and this will never happen, and I've told you this off the air, Mike, so you know this is no revelation coming from me. This will never happen with the current regime because obviously the president and Vince are friends, and I do not see Vince McMahon ever losing any power under this particular regime, but I would not be surprised if more Andrew Yangs pop up. Do I think they'll be successful? No, but I do believe this. If you really want to see a union ever formed, it will probably be because people like an Andrew Yang, maybe someday there will be a politician who pops up who has enough clout, and all of a sudden it becomes a government intervention thing, and now there is a union. So I found it very interesting that the very thing you don't want could maybe be the only thing that could actually give the wrestlers the benefits they look for.
All right,
Any thoughts on that?
Let me jump in on this real quick.
It's an interesting point, is what I'm getting at.
It's a very good point, but I'm going to say this to you. So hypothetically, wrestling becomes unionized. The characters are still owned by the WWE.
Doesn't change what we're talking about here.
WWE,
no,
right?
third-party deals, it would not change something like that.
Right, so that's union's not going to change
I
that,
just
right?
wanted to point out that Mike's very interesting statement about wishing for wrestling and state to be divided, when ultimately so many people who scream for more wrestling rights, that may be the one way that it happens, through state. That's all I'm saying.
Again, I'm not sure where the wrestling rights matter here.
I know. I understand.
Again,
I understand that.
When you unionize, you cap your earning potential.
I understand
this is why,
that too.
Again, we
sure.
keep understanding that. You're in the WWE now. If you're in the main roster, you're a six-figure salary.
Yeah, you're doing well.
Right? You're doing
Mike,
fine.
you do agree with that, right? If you're the main roster, you're making some good cash. We don't have to work at Domino's, right?
No, I think the wrestlers these days, in many ways, are pampered. To be honest with you,
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Pharaoh made a great statement that with Andrew Yang, he's obviously jockeying for a position in a potential Biden-Harris, regime or
all
whatever.
jousting.
And
sure.
Right, and he for whatever reason, Andrew Yang, and I just watched before we went on the air tonight, gentlemen. I watched Andrew Yang with Chris Van Vliet. And Yang is a wrestling fan. Yang's not coming out of left field. He's talking about
That's cool.
Randy Savage as his favorite wrestler and stuff. So Yang, at least on the surface, has a humanistic feeling for these wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of those things, guys, where we're all making good points, but it's like, are the wrestlers in WWE right now suffering? No. But we do get kind of into those topics of, do they have the right to use their own birth name to be on social media and make a buck from it? I would think so. And then you get into those, legal territories. For instance, even the Cody Rhodes versus Cody Runnels versus just plain Cody thing. That's very complicated. And I don't have the answers, and we can just sit here and theorize about it, but who knows?
Well, let's go back to our friend.
Cena
Let's go back
statement
to our friend
because
Andrew
that involves his birth name. It's very interesting to take John Cena hat on it.
Let's go
very
back
interesting.
to back to Andrew, our friend Andrew first.
Oh, he's our friend.
Again, clearly this is a political agenda by him.
I believe that. Oh, sure.
There's nothing stopping from our friend Andrew from trying to unionize wrestlers now.
Right.
He
That's
can
true,
certainly step into the ring, get
He
these
could full
wrestlers
court.
together.
He
doesn't need to become the Department of Labor head.
Right.
He can just do it himself now.
Very interesting.
So the reality is, I think the idea here is that they're trying to get to the working man, the wrestling fan, and and like Mike said, I agree. He's trying to jockey himself into position into some sort of cabinet, and I think he was quoted on CNN for saying he's willing to take any position that Mr. Biden will offer him when in hope that he becomes president of the United States.
Boy, that's shamelessly throwing yourself out there, huh, Mikey?
It is, and politics is politics.
Yeah.
Politics is something that it's probably a bigger work than wrestling. Probably Jesse Ventura said that before.
Absolutely.
Me, but, I mean,
yeah, we're all being worked. Absolutely. Now, Mike, you brought up something interesting too that my partner and I were actually debating before the show. I do find it very interesting about what do you do when somebody is using their birth name, like, for example, John Cena. Mike, do you have that anywhere? But there was something I read that I thought was excellent. John Cena, when he was asked about this, about, signing over his actual birth name as well as his birth name being used as his character, he said, I have no issue with it because this is what I signed up for. This is, before I was here, I was just a kid from Massachusetts. I wasn't doing much, I wasn't famous. I wasn't making millions of dollars. Vince McMahon giving me a break led me to my Hollywood career, all of these other things. So, oddly enough, John Cena says, yes, in a way, he does own the rights to my birth name. He goes, but not fully. He gets a percentage. And to John Cena, this is perfectly okay. What do you think about that? I just learned this tonight, by the way, because you're coming on the show. I was looking at Mike showed me this, very thing. What do you think about that? I find that very interesting. Does this go back to what you said in your rant? Like, look, if you know what you signed up for, this is what you signed up for. Any thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts is, in John Cena's particular case, he's what you would call a favored son. I mean, his father, John Cena Sr., who works part-time as a wrestling manager throughout New England, and if you've been in New England at a local wrestling show, you've probably bought a dry cigar from John Cena Sr. like I have. Okay. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't. Sure you would. He doesn't keep those. He doesn't keep those things in a humidifier. I found out the hard way. But
that's
in
terrible.
any event,
that's awful.
Humidor.
No humidor. That's terrible.
No, it was awful. And,
it tastes like cornflakes.
He's a nice guy. And John Cena Sr.'s a nice guy, but he's a nice guy who's gotten some airtime on WWE Raw, and he's getting kicked in the head by Randy Orton because he's John Cena Jr.'s father.
Right.
And my point is that John Cena he has a debt to Vince McMahon in his own mind because he feels that he couldn't have done this without WWE's platform. And at the time, he's right, because TNA wrestling was so far behind that when Cena came into the scene, that was the only game in town, really, was WWE. So that's John Cena's personal feelings. And he's been, and look, folks, we all kind of honor Cena now, and that's fine. But during the Cena heyday, those Cena chants of Cena sucks, that's how people really felt.
Yep.
You know, let's not lie to ourselves. And in 5 years from now, let's not all say that everybody loved Roman Reigns for 10 years either. Fans were booing John Cena. It wasn't out of a fun game. They literally did not like the guy in a way that was not conducive to business in what you would want a Hulk Hogan or a Steve Austin or The Rock. John Cena, in many aspects, was disappointing as a babyface, but still, he got pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and now he gets to make movies and he gets to do whatever he wants. And so, is a guy like that, who's had that silver McMahon spoon in his mouth for 15 years, is he going to be the one to be a rebel force against the WWE tyranny? Obviously not. It's going to be people like myself, Andrew Yang. I know you guys respect Vince McMahon a lot, but you'll also be critical of him when the time is right. And for me, guys, it's really just about people being independent thinkers. At the end of the day, we can't be subservient to a guy on television, whether it's Vince McMahon, Santa Claus, or anybody else. We just have to be independent thinkers and do our own thing.
Well, I think, it's really great points, but I also feel that, money rules. And,
no BS
again,
about that.
I understand where Mike's coming. People didn't like Cena, but guess what? As much as they hated him, they still sold out the arenas.
And that's the key point, too, John.
And he still drew. And I will continually say that John Cena is the last great true pro wrestling superstar, period.
As far as what's Vince has created in the last 15 years, I haven't seen anything since. No, I agree with that. I do agree with that. What's interesting, though, is that John Cena, and Mike, you can chime in on this, please. John Cena was the beginning of what we now refer to as a polarizing figure. They call him that all the time. Michael Cole calls him that all the time. Polarizing is a very fancy word for a character not being received the way it traditionally would have been in the past. John Cena was a face, like Mike pointed out, but he was a face that everybody absolutely hated. Oddly enough, this is where it all began, the weirdness in this business, where you could be hated, be a good guy, and millions of people will still tune in every week to hate the good guy. Very interesting to me.
It's all about
Cena was the beginning of the polarization and the weirdness of what we see with characters today, but Vince saw the dollar signs, and that's all that mattered in the end.
Mike brought up about John Cena, hey, look, this guy had the silver spoon in his mouth. Why would he bite back on Vince?
He was clearly the chosen one.
So both of you weigh in on this then.
Sure.
Mick Foley, I'm sure you're all aware, tweeted, banning wrestlers from making extra money on third-party deals, Twitch, YouTube, Cameo, strikes me as crummy thing to do. Just my opinion, Mick Foley. Weighing in, to which Kevin Nash suggested that wrestlers should start asking for health insurance and other employee benefits. So I ask you guys this. These are two guys that if it wasn't for the WWE, and again, these are guys that did have the opportunity to wrestle for bigger or as big organizations and failed miserably, in my opinion. They were made by Vince McMahon. And here are two guys that, they're out of the limelight now, and now they're taking shots. And if there's any two wrestlers I could choose from to make this statement, these should not be the guys.
Very interesting.
Your opinions?
Mike, why don't you go first? I'll wait.
Well, here's my thought, and it's just that I think whenever someone, hey, it's America, and we're supposed to have opinions. So, Mick Foley's son Dewey, and I would almost guarantee my life on this. In fact, I would guarantee my life on this. Mike Messier is a better pro wrestling writer than Dewey Foley. Sorry, you know what I mean. So I mean, Dewey Foley has a nice job at Titan Tower, because he's Mick Foley's son, and Mike Messier doesn't because Mike Messier speaks his mind.
Right.
As far as Kevin Nash and Mick Foley go, look, both of those guys, and I've worked with Kevin Nash in films, and Kevin Nash is a fun guy and an outspoken guy, and I think that Kevin Nash is the type of guy that's going to say what he wants no matter what because he's invested his money well, and is he trying to do right by the next generation of wrestlers? in Nash's tweet, probably. I mean, Nash does have a heart. He's not just a cold-hearted guy. So I think in some respects, Nash and Foley may be tweeting that type of thing because in their own way, they're trying to pave the way for the next generation of wrestlers. Because I do think, even with all the stuff we've been through with pro wrestling, with the thumb in the butt spots and PWG and horrendous things like that, Kenny Omega wrestling a plastic doll in Japan, all these horrendous activities, I do think there's still a brotherhood and a sisterhood now of pro wrestlers that they look out for each other and they look out for the next generation. And if it's come down to tweeting instead of teaching a guy how to take a punch or how to fend off angry fans, I guess that's what it is. Now they have to tweet the legacy of pro wrestling instead of, teaching the guy in the dressing room how to take a back body drop. But at least it's something.
But isn't there something called loyalty and respect?
Nope.
I mean, that's what bothers me here. Look, Mike, I agree with you, right? You have a right to, you're a free thinker, but where's the loyalty? Where's the respect? This guy made you, I mean, look, let's be honest. Kevin Nash was a bouncer at a bar, and if it wasn't for the WWE and Vince McMahon, he probably still would be. Mick Foley was a failed wrestler, and I'm sorry anyone could argue he was a failed wrestler until he went to the WWE. Where's the loyalty? This is what I'm not understanding. When people take care of you and give you the lifestyle that you got, and they gave back too, don't get me wrong, but there's no loyalty. And that is the basis of the problem with this country to begin with. Pharaoh?
Well, I guess I would go ahead, Pharaoh. Go ahead, Pharaoh.
Just to get this in real quick as far as the two of them and whether or not they're suited enough to have an opinion on this, I found it very interesting that Mick Foley stayed very basic. It's just a crummy thing to do. Again, as far as Mick Foley's argument on it, I will go back to what Mike said during his rant. If you know what you're signing up for, this is what you get. So I'm not sure why it's a crummy thing to do. If you're under contract to obey certain regulations that Vince lays out, if you signed it, that's it, the end. What I thought, as far as Kevin Nash goes, I do think Kevin Nash deserves more of a, I can function without Vince McMahon than Mick Foley credit. Because Kevin Nash, while he was made a star originally, he did go to WCW, he left Vince, and he almost took Vince down with Hulk Hogan, et cetera, et cetera. I do hold more stock in Kevin Nash's opinion than I do Mick Foley's, oddly enough. Not for what they did in the ring. If you want to get all nerdy about what they did in the ring, then Mick Foley's like forever, he gets first dibs because he went through the cage. No, this is about their minds and what they did in this business. Kevin Nash has a very fine mind. And while I do believe, where's the loyalty? I so agree with you. Kevin Nash should not be doing this publicly to Vince McMahon. He should be talking to him privately because Vince McMahon did make him a multimillionaire. So I do agree. Where's the respect? However, I do understand what Kevin Nash said, and at least he said something very intelligent. Hey, and I agree with you, Mike Messier out there. You want to grow a pair of balls? You go out and you do these things. You form a union. I found it hilarious that Kurt Flood was not Carl Yastrzemski. Kurt Flood was not Reggie Jackson. Kurt Flood was not a major legend. Kurt Flood stood up against him, and something happened. So basically what Kevin Nash is saying,
well, first of all,
stand
Kurt Flood
up.
had nothing to lose.
Nobody's right.
Well,
there's nobody here willing enough to give up to try. And that's the biggest reason why we're not going to see
But why
anything.
is that? Because they want the ultimate, the biggest capabilities to making money. They don't want to be capped. They don't
Right.
want to be stopped.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And you
So,
know,
Mike, do you think out there, you think a guy like Rusev or whatever he's calling himself now, Vam Miro or whatever he is,
Miro, yeah,
do
it's his
you
real
think
name,
that
Miro.
he should be like one of the guys going, no, screw this, I'm going to be Kurt Flood, I'm going to form a union? Where is the balls, like you pointed out in the rant, with all this whining and crying and name calling we give to Vince? Where's the balls? Where's the union?
Well, here's the answer. My answer to that be I've said for a couple of years, and I did a rant about this where I was actually sad and emotional about it. The WWE wrestlers stopped being role models to me, stopped being heroes to me when they didn't speak up against the shows in Saudi Arabia, which initially did not have women. Yes, they added women later, but for like 4 or 5 shows, they didn't have the women. And I said, you know what? I can't watch these television shows and watch these wrestlers and think that they're supposed to be either my role model or the role models for the youth in this world when they don't have the balls or the courage to speak up against things that to me are clearly morally wrong. So I no longer, what I've gotten to the point of, gentlemen, is an emotional disconnect. Yes, I will still watch wrestling. Yes, I will still enjoy wrestling, enjoy talking about wrestling, but I'm no longer going to put these people on a pedestal like I once did. Because I kind of see it for what it is now. And I said in the rant, I use a term now that's very insulting and very degrading, but I think it's well-deserved. Meat puppet. If they're going to treat themselves like meat puppets, I'm going to think of them as meat puppets. If they're not going to have the integrity to speak up or to form a union or to not do shows in countries that they don't want to do, or to not do character work that they think is degrading, then they can all red rooster themselves into oblivion. I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to cheer for them if they make clowns out of themselves. And if the Kenny Omegas who wants to wrestle a 9-year-old girl in Japan and a plastic doll in Japan, and the fans that defend that type of activity and say, oh, that was the promotion, where is the personal integrity? That's why my hero is Mike Messier, not Kenny Omega, not Triple H, not The Undertaker. None of these people. I don't look up to any of them anymore. I look up to myself.
So in hindsight, was Dennis Rodman 20 years ago when he was at the height of his controversy and a superstar playing for Chicago Bulls, was Dennis Rodman when he said, don't call me your role model, I'm not your fucking role model. I'm not here to be a role model, I'm just a basketball player. You think he was just way ahead of his time, or is just people just too afraid to make a stand on anything nowadays, or did he just excuse everybody from having to be a role model? Because Rodman was one of the first guys who ever came out and said, I'm not your fucking role model. I played basketball.
Barkley.
Was it Barkley too?
It was Barkley, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember that there was. I remember Rodman had the same attitude. You know.
Yeah, of course they did, and they were right. And the thing is, and I think it was Barkley, because what Barkley was saying.
Okay.
You should look up to your parents. Your parents should be the type of people that want you to be like them. So he was really calling for parents to take control of the family situation and not allow their kids to look at people at TV and say, I want to be Charles Barkley. And why would you want to be Charles Barkley? He never won a ring anyway.
Right. He was very interesting this week when the Nets hired Nash, and they were screaming about white privilege, and he said, shut the fuck up. The guy was one of the greatest players that ever played this game. What are you talking about? So Charles Barkley's weird to me, man. At least he tells how he feels, right? You got to give him that.
I do like Charles Barkley, and that was kind of just a joke that I didn't deliver it very funnily, but I mean, Charles Barkley was obviously funnily. He's a great player. I liked watching the Michael Jordan thing. Yeah,
look, we grew up with Patrick Ewing out here. If you don't win a ring, it doesn't mean we don't love you, right? I mean, come on, Patrick Ewing we loved Patrick Ewing.
Well, it's funny you bring up Patrick Ewing because guess what? As New York fans, the Knicks spent half the time booing Patrick Ewing.
They
did.
Knicks
fans,
they
right?
did.
And
I hated
when he was
that.
Gone, you missed him.
I
Almost
knew
John
we would.
Cena-ish when Mike was talking about John Cena. I was thinking
right.
the same way. You don't know what you have until it's gone.
Right.
Right. So, so again, let's just revert back, and then we'll talk a little more about the wrestling news this week.
Okay.
In your opinion, Mike.
Yes.
And Pharaoh. Is Vince McMahon right into stopping his independent contractors from using his characters to make their own money?
You want to go first, Mike? Or you want me to throw this one out first?
I'll go first. Go first. I think he's right in the character name, but not the person's birth name. That's where I think the line. If you had to make a general line, you'd say, okay, this is your WWE character name. Once you sign a contract and you become Rusev or you become, Lana, then
the Undertaker.
The Undertaker. Hey, still
right.
a great example. You say
Sure.
you have your kayfabe name or your WWE character persona, and you have your real life name. So if you have to have 2 Twitter accounts, 2 Facebook accounts, 2 Instagram accounts to cover the basis, and folks, this is something I not uncovered, but it's something I ranted about several times. I don't believe that the WWE talent is in charge of their own social media in by and large in the first place. I mean, Kurt Angle was tweeting ridiculous tweets about the Revolution or FTR wrestling in tag team matches. Anyway, it's a whole big thing, but it's clear to me that many times the WWE talent is not tweeting the things that people are giving credit to, say, a Becky Lynch, or they're giving credit to the wrestlers for having these Twitter wars when it's some intern at Titan Tower is Twittering this stuff.
It's part of their promo machine rolling on. I got you.
Because you have to control the character. And again, we could take a book out of the Ultimate Warrior, who changed his name to Warrior, right?
Mhm.
Because he wanted to get control of somewhat of his character.
Right.
So,
right.
Again, I don't think the
Vince is right.
WWE is
I mean,
stopping its wrestlers from using their name unless you signed a contract with your lawyer there, 15 pages, and allowed them to take your name as the character. That's your choice. And, you know,
I think,
again...
I think if that's what you signed on for, that's what you get. What I also think is interesting, though, Mike, wouldn't this be strange if somehow they were able to get this figured out and you can only use your wrestling name, you know, to do wrestling promoting and events, and you can't use it because it belongs to the company. Do you think anyone would really go see The Undertaker and have him sign an Undertaker picture and have it just say Mark Calloway? I mean, what?
Yeah,
and it can't be the Undertaker photo he's signing either. It's a photo of Mark Calloway having a barbecue. I mean,
just Mark.
Do you see where this is going, Mike? Do you see where this is going? This is gonna be a mess.
No, I hear you. I hear you, and it's a great debate, and it's something that you know WWE like the rest of us. Sometimes we struggle to keep up with technology, and this might be something that these cameo things, these Twitch streams, and so forth. Maybe the talent was kind of, not to say getting away with it, but they were doing their own thing before Vince or whoever else kind of got clued in, and now they're trying to double back and take control, and that's all well and good. And like you guys said it a couple of ways, is ultimately these people, I can't have that much sympathy for it. A, like I said in the rant, they signed up for what they signed up for, and B, I've got my own problems to worry about, as we all do. You know, I've got my own real life, and putting a certain amount of attention of my life into the wrestling world is fine, because I get to meet gentlemen like yourself and have a nice conversation and share some thoughts. And we did have a question from the fans, which I shared with Monty. There was a fan on Facebook who had a question for us. If I can bring that up, gentlemen.
Sure. You got that.
It's from Mike Murch in the Facebook group for the Love of Pro Wrestling. And Mike Murch asks us, another MM. We got Mike Morocco, Michael Monty, Mike Messier, and Mike Murch here. What happened to larger than life superstars? Not just WWE, but in my opinion, everywhere feels like people playing wrestler as opposed to being the real deal themselves.
Excellent.
Lots of guys have. Yep, he's got a few more sentences. Lots of guys have great, amazing matches, but it very rarely feels special or important anymore. Nobody feels like a legit larger-than-life icon anymore, except for The Fiend and a few part-timers and guys that have been around for a decade or more, like AJ, Brock, Undertaker, etc. Mike Murch from the Love of Pro Wrestling Facebook group. Gentlemen, any thoughts?
Well said. I agree with everything he basically just said.
Well, Mike, I appreciate the question. This is what I would say. It's clear that the WWE, after Cena, learned its lesson and decided, hey, it's
about
the star
the company,
of the show
not
is
the
WWE. It's no longer going to be its superstars,
not the individual.
And this is not a new concept. If anyone has a chance, watch the A&E MTV documentary.
Okay.
Where it wasn't really around the artists who were making the videos. It was about the channel, right? And that's where their focus was, about the channel. The artists were just players in the game. So you got one, that they're trying not to build superstars. Then two, the fans are to blame. Why? Because they don't want a storyline.
Right.
They've destroyed the championship belts, which was the ultimate goal. We had Al Snow in last week. He said, clearly it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's no patience.
All they want is their spot monkey stuff. And
pretty much.
Right.
They want to move on. So
pretty much.
When the fans are upset, they're the ones to blame. We talk about this all the time, Mike, me and Jimmy, right? We talk about Don Morocco, and I want you to share a moment or two with what you saw with Morocco when you were younger. But when we watched Morocco with Backlund, you got to remember the slowdown was a 5-minute armbar.
Still loved it.
Of getting, and of Backlund and Morocco trying to get out of the armbar.
Still loved it.
The fans would have booed these guys out of the building.
Today they would. Mike?
Well, I can share a great Don Morocco story if you want to hear it.
Go ahead.
Well, it was February, I believe, of 1983, and Washington, D.C. had a tremendous snowstorm, like a historic snowstorm in the Washington, D.C. Area. And I was in a small town called Burke, Virginia, a suburb, and my dad and I and a friend of mine, a young friend, because I was young and my friend was young. We had asked my dad to take us to this wrestling show. The main event was Bob Backlund defending the WWF World Heavyweight Title against Don Morocco, Magnificent Morocco. And this was the second show I attended live. And so my dad had a rabbit, a diesel rabbit, if you guys can remember that thing. You know what I mean? A very conical little car. And somehow they did not cancel the WWF show. The Bullets, the Washington Bullets back then, before they were the Wizards, and the Capitals had canceled, and everything was canceling. But the show must go on for WWF. So I think it was normally about a 90-minute drive. This turned out to be like a 2.5, 3-hour drive to the show both ways. But we got there in one piece. We saw this, 3.5 hour wrestling show. Don Morocco and Bob Backlund had a match. They beat the crap out of each other. And Morocco, I believe, although he was challenging for the title and he won the match by cuts, where they had to stop the match.
Nice.
Because I guess Backlund was bleeding too much.
What, he hit the post? Backlund hit his head on the post or something?
Something like that. He might have hit him with the post or the ringside bell. But they did this with Backlund a lot when he was fighting guys like Morocco. They would have Backlund bleed, and the challenger would win the match. But they would say that the title didn't change because the referee had no choice but to stop the contest because of cuts. Right. It was called cuts. It was the craziest thing. But Morocco and Backlund went brawling back to the dressing room. Later on that night, just a quick aside, the actual final match of the show was, get this match, Playboy Buddy Rose and Ray the Crippler Stevens fought Rocky Soulman Johnson and Special Delivery Jones.
Wow.
That's right. Special Delivery Jones used to main event shows at the Capitol Center because he was. It made no sense, but I saw 2 main events with SD Jones at the Capitol Center. He was a main event guy there in Landover, but he was a jobber on TV, which the dichotomy never made sense, but that's what it was.
Those house shows were strange, though, back in those days, because you didn't always see what was really technically the main event at the end. I remember watching Andre the Giant versus Ken Patera at the Long Island Arena, and that was not the last match. The last match was like a tag team match between, Rene Goulet and Dominic DeNucci versus...
Well, the main event was always in the middle, so they could announce...
Right, things were different back then.
Because remember, they would announce the next card right after, maybe a match after the main event and get everybody buying the tickets for the next show, right? So, yeah, wrestling... Again, think about this. You got fans out there, when there's a disqualification and a count out, they flip out.
Yeah.
You still got older fans that I see, tweeting or whatever else. They can't believe this ended in a count out or a disqualification. That's the way it used to always go on. That's how you extended the program.
Mike, were you a Bob Backlund fan?
I was a mild Bob Backlund fan. I mean, I was it was kind of just like
mild
time.
As a teenager back in those days, we didn't do anything tepid. Were you a fan of his or not?
I was. I mean, I interviewed Bob Backlund. It's on the Mike Messier YouTube channel, so I have a great deal of respect for Bob Backlund. But I'm just being honest. I mean, I'm not. Look, when I met the Ultimate Warrior in real life, I was a fan of the Ultimate Warrior's motivational and inspirational videos from 2011 and 2012. But I was not a fan of the Ultimate Warrior's in-ring work.
Right.
Was I a fan of Bob Backlund as a wrestler? Yes, but did I? I didn't have the same type of emotional connection that I did to Rocky Johnson or Ronnie Garvin, watching Georgia Championship Wrestling. Rugged. At the time, he was called the man with the hands of stone, Ronnie Garvin, fighting with Jake the Snake Roberts. I had more of a connection to Ronnie Garvin for whatever reason and Rocky Johnson than I did to a Bob Backlund. Who's to say what's what? It's just the way that it was for me.
Yeah, it just matters who you like. It's funny. I never even understood the Ronnie Garvin thing. All right, look. We're almost out of time, Mike. You got anything to promote for the fans out there that could follow you?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for having me on the show. We worked through our technical difficulties, but it was a lot of fun. And I would just say that Mike Messier YouTube channel, I recently celebrated my 400th subscriber, and I put the guy over, and he had a group called Change the Face of Depression here out of Jacksonville, Florida. So my 450th YouTube subscriber, I will also put them over with a special dedicated video and a spot on the MikeMessier.com website. I just say, go to MikeMessier.com. I'm a screenwriter for hire. If you have an idea for a feature film, but you're not a writer, hire your buddy Mike Messier. I'll write you a great screenplay. I'm an actor. I'm an acting coach. If you need any of these services, I'm available through these modern technologies worldwide. I can be your acting coach. But if nothing else, anyone who's watching this, I encourage you, if you haven't subscribed to Monte and the Pharaoh on YouTube, do that immediately. And then your next thing is to subscribe to Mike Messier on YouTube. What else can you do with your life? That's the what you need to do right now.
Kudos, man. Kudos.
Well said.
We want to talk about on September 21st.
Okay.
We're off next week. Matt's on vacation. Matt, where you going, bro?
I'm going down to Jersey Shore.
That's what I'm
Jersey
talking about.
Shore, you got a date with Snooki? Very interesting.
Nice.
What's the situation? Oh, that's a terrible Jersey Shore joke.
Well, I want you to be safe and get back in one piece, Matt. We thank you for all you do.
Oh, yeah.
So we will not be on next Thursday, but we come back on Monday, the 21st, where we have special guest Andrew Anderson, along with Kevin Sullivan. If anyone remembers our first show here of Indie Music, we had Jim Doss on, the first husband of Nancy Benoit.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'll cover some of that action with Kevin Sullivan.
Yes, yes.
And then on the 24th, we've got former PWI writer Bill Apter. Mike, you got to interview Bill Apter. What are your thoughts on Bill?
Personally, didn't get to interview Bill Apter, but I met Bill Apter at a Ring of Honor show in 2002 in Philadelphia. And Bill Apter was a great guy. And when I was a youth, I think it was the 10-year anniversary of PWI, I gave a special Pro Wrestling Illustrated unofficial official award, Scalp of the PWI Years, Bam Bam Bigelow and Bill Apter tie. So if anyone has that issue, I think it was the 10th anniversary, that says Mike Messier, Burke, Virginia, and I gave Bill Apter and Bam Bam the Scalp of the PWI Years award.
That's excellent.
Yeah, that would be rough to choose between those two. Go ahead,
I
Mike.
used to send in. Oh, sorry, guys. I just get excited when I think about this stuff. I used to send in letters. Letters. There was a letter in, I think it was Wrestling '89, which I said it was called Starcade Blackout, and I wrote a very heated letter about the Starcade, the Bunkhouse Stampede match at Starcade '88 being blacked out from the pay-per-view. I wrote a very impassioned letter to the editor, and they published that one. And I used to get very excited about Pro Wrestling Illustrated, to be honest. But then they blackballed me, which is another story we'll have to talk about another time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm still getting over the fact that Matt Brock is not a real person. Freaking PW. They even worked us. You know that, right? You know they worked us. It's terrible.
And on October 2nd, we'll have WWE Marty Jannetty in the house, WWE Barry Horowitz in the house, and two-thirds of the FBI, Tommy Rich and Chasey Smothers from ECW.
Okay.
Again, I wasn't a big FBI guy.
Dude, all I know
Tommy
is
Rich guy.
I'm sure. I was just about to say, I'm sure Mike agrees. All I know is just that we got Tommy Rich in the room. That's all. That works for me.
Somebody say something about Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer. Talk about a guy who bled buckets for this sport.
That
Tommy
guy,
Rich.
Dude, Buzz Sawyer is so under the radar at this point. Buzz Sawyer was great, Mike.
It was.
Buzz Sawyer was great.
How about Tommy Rich?
That's
you heard Mike on Tommy Rich.
Well,
What
Tommy
about
Rich
you
was
about
great
Tommy
too.
Rich?
What was that? I'm sorry.
What were your thoughts on Tommy Rich?
Tommy Rich was like, it's hard to explain because to me Tommy Rich was almost like a meteor shooting through the sky. When he was his star shone so brightly and it looked so promising, and then he was gone. That's basically how I remember Tommy Rich, because at one point I remember even you and me looking at the Pro Wrestling Illustrated or Inside Wrestling. It's got Tommy Rich on the cover with the NWA title. We knew how important this was.
5 days.
He held it 5 days.
5 days.
He never got a sniff, and the next thing you know, his career was almost just. So
gone.
to me, but he was right at the top. He had climbed to the top. I can't even figure out sometimes what happened to change this whole.
Listen,
Tommy
if you
Rich,
remember him like that, the guy made his mark on the
industry. He had his moment. It's almost comparable to a Gale Sayers. It was like, boom, here I am, boom, I'm gone.
Well,
if
again,
that
we
makes
want
any
to apologize for the technical difficulties. Mike, it's always our pleasure to have you on. on a personal basis, I love your videos. They're entertaining.
Thanks.
You know your stuff. You're very well-rounded.
Mm.
And the one and most important thing about you, Mike, in my opinion, is you treat everybody with respect.
Bingo.
And that's the one thing me and Jimmy always talk about, right? Treating people with respect.
Bingo.
So thank you for taking your time and visiting the show today.
Anytime, gentlemen. You guys are awesome. You guys are kicking ass, and I really appreciate you guys putting me over. And we celebrate Don Morocco's birthday the Hawaiian way by dedicating this show to Don Morocco, if you don't mind, because I think he's a great legend. And the last Battle of Atlanta, Pharaoh, just so you know, is on the WWE Network. Just so you know that.
Nice.
Buzz Sawyer versus Tommy Rich.
Nice.
Just so you know.
Nice.
All right,
we're going to
Monte
put on
the Pharaoh
top of the
can be
cake,
seen on
though,
YouTube, Monte the Pharaoh page, Facebook Live on the Monte the Pharaoh page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Channel 115 every Tuesday, 8:30 to 9 p.m. Mike Messier will be seen on an upcoming episode. I'd probably think about 2 weeks. You could also catch us on Channel 115 at 6 a.m. to 6:30. Mike Messier will be on that. And then on Channel 20 at 1:30 in the morning, which is a few hours from now, but that'll eventually be moving to Saturday. And as explained earlier, we're moving to 7 o'clock on Channel 115. Any final question for Mr. Messier before we cut out? The final Pharaoh question?
Final Pharaoh question. Well, Mike, you may not know this, but I'm off Facebook. What do you hope the future will be on the internet regarding pro wrestling, or are we just going to forever be dealing with the diarrhea lips out there?
You know, I think this is what I think a lot of fans want. I think if I could speak for a lot of fans, I think we're looking for that next bolt of lightning, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, 1997, NWO, 1996, The Rock, 1998. I think for over 20 years now, we're all looking for that next thing that we could all proudly put on a T-shirt, have a catchphrase, and maybe that's just a dying amount of us. But I, as great of a physical specimen as Drew McIntyre is, and as nice of a guy as he seems to be, I don't see a great catchphrase coming from Big Drew McIntyre.
Nope.
I don't see a big catchphrase coming from a Braun Strowman or a Roman Reigns.
Nope.
Some of these goth kids or everyone's inner goth is satisfied by Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, like Mike Murch said. But I don't know if that character could be like The Rock. And I would. This is what I'm hoping. If Vince McMahon, in all his wisdom, were to let the shackles go of these wrestlers, let them be a little more free, maybe we'll see something catch fire, like a Daniel Bryan could have, or somebody else could have. CM Punk could have, you know. But you have to let those shackles go, because if the fear from Vince McMahon and his family is we don't want any one wrestler outshining the sport or outshining WWE, then that fear is going to restrict your own product from being bigger than the NFL. When I was trying to work for the WWE in 2007 and 2002, I had a plan and an idea for the WWE to be bigger than the NFL, but now they're much smaller than the NFL because they've kept their wrestlers sedated. And I just think we need a bolt of lightning, and we need Vince to kind of wake up, or just to move on and let someone else take over.
So I'm gonna leave you both with this, and this is just my opinion. I think the writing has been strong lately. We're in COVID era. But I will tell you both this. The road they're going down now, if fans come back, could be that bolt of lightning you're looking for. Roman Reigns has found himself in this niche where he is going to start wrestling his family and destroying his family, which ultimately will be a WrestleMania against Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the main event. That's my prediction, and that's the road I think we're going on. And please, let's not forget, Sasha Banks Bailey is one of the great storylines. When we look back at 60 years old and think about it, unfortunately it wasn't put on in France, but this is one of the great storylines going on here. You've got two possible great matches that could maybe make one of the greatest WrestleManias in the history that we've ever seen. And that's just my opinion. Pharaoh?
Yeah, I have a hard time with the sexiness. The sexiness of that WrestleMania match you're speaking of, The Rock versus Roman Reigns, is The Rock. The sexiness of Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant was of course Hulk Hogan, but Andre was pretty damn sexy too. I don't believe that Roman Reigns versus The Rock will be enough to make people go, oh my God. Honestly, I think the wrestling community, and even ratings-wise, would be more interested in watching CM Punk come back and fight Triple H with a real personal grudge.
So when I see you next,
that's just my opinion.
When Roman Reigns literally destroys Jey Uso to the point where he looks like he's dead.
You should have
and
asked me
Naomi.
first. You should have asked me first, though. Do I give a shit that Roman Reigns is wrestling Jey Uso? Because guess what the Pharaoh's
Do you give a
answer is?
shit?
No, I don't give
What
a
if
shit.
he destroys him?
Good, let him.
And what if his wife
I hope
comes
his brother
in to
comes
save
down
him?
and he destroys
What
him
if his
too?
wife comes in
You
to
can let
save
the
him and
whole
takes
fa-
care of his
This is going to
wife?
sound strange. You can let the whole family go out there. He could light up a Samoan barbecue and just have them all. I don't care. I just don't care.
Well, with that, that's Mike Monty.
This is the Pharaoh who doesn't care. Mike Messier, our special guest, thank you for being on. And until next time, later.